This is the story of the infamous Zodiac Killer, a mysterious serial murderer who made himself larger than life.
I like killing people. Killing him.
And was never caught. David is getting ready to go out with his girlfriend, Betty Lou. It's a special occasion. The two teenagers met earlier this year. Since then, they've seen each other almost every day. But tonight is their first real date, and they want to make it special.
Sweaty hand.
David picks out a light blue shirt, a beige sport coat, and brown corduroy pants. He has butterflies in his stomach.
You not matching, gang. Chill.
He pockets some change, a white handkerchief, and a bottle of breath mints, just in case. He slips on his rough leather boots, grabs the keys to his mother's Rambler station wagon, and is on his way. It's only a short drive to Betty Lou's house. David pulls up outside and pauses to take a breath. Tonight is supposed to be special. A night to remember for the rest of his life. And who knows? Maybe it'll even be the start of their life together.
Well, he finna propose or something?
When David sees
for
Betty
marriage?
Lou, the world stops for a moment. He even forgets how nervous he is. He helps her into the car, and the pair drive off. Their parents think they're going to a Christmas concert, but they're actually headed somewhere else. To a quiet turnout just off Lake Herman Road. The spot is popular with young couples in Vallejo. It's a secluded space to enjoy some quality time away from their parents and siblings. Betty Lou leans against David's shoulder.
Oh, it's like one of them little scenes and shit. You can watch the city and shit like that on like one of them little hills and shit, and like crush or like do some romantic shit over there type shit, like on the movies.
Tonight belongs only to them.
We both keep on killing.
But that's what they be finding the bodies at, like for real, bro.
About an hour later, a pair of bright headlights cut through the darkness. A second vehicle is slowly rolling toward them. It pulls up right next to the Rambler. Suddenly, shots are fired straight into David's car. In a panic, the teenagers scramble out the passenger side door. But David only makes it as far as the passenger seat. Their attacker reaches through the open driver's side window, aims at a spot behind David's left ear, and pulls the trigger. Betty Lou has made it several meters away from the car. She's running, hurried and desperate, and her breathing is shallow and frantic. The stranger is right behind her. There's no way she can escape him. She screams, piercing the quiet night air. Then, 5 shots ring out.
He's trying to pop his ass.
They strike Betty Lou in the back, shattering the future she and David might have had.
Damn.
By now, it's 11:14 p.m. Betty Lou should have returned home long ago, but neither her nor David ever will. This is the first time the Zodiac Killer strikes.
What the fuck, like, gang? Like, is he, like, killing couples and shit, fool? Like, what the hell going on? That's some weird shit. Your ass had, like, one breakup in, like, middle school or some shit, your 6th grade or something like that. And after that, started getting bullied still. And then started killing motherfuckers, probably. Like, what? What the hell?
It's also the beginning of an exhaustive manhunt that will never truly end. The police will fail. Strange psychics will offer their help. And some of America's most renowned authorities will be stumped by relatively easy riddles. A hunt that will inspire numerous films, series, books, podcasts, and videos like this one. There will be copycat killers, some real, some only alleged. And obsessive amateur detectives and online communities dead set on finding the Zodiac Killer. Some will even think they have him. The search for Zodiac still captivates people to this day, but it also shows that stories only get as big as we allow them to.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, fool. Chill out.
This video is largely based on the book Zodiac by Robert Graysmith. As always, you'll find the link and all our sources in the description. The newsroom of the San Francisco Chronicle is buzzing with life. The Chronicle is one of the largest and most influential newspapers in the entire West Coast. Color TV has been around for a while, but most people still start their day with their local morning paper. These thousands of readers expect their front page to feature breaking stories and the most important news. The Bay Area wants to be informed, surprised, and maybe even a little shocked. No one in the Chronicle's office knows that the paper itself is about to become part of a shocking story, that it will become an active player in a deadly game. This is the story of the Zodiac Killer, and this is Mona, our producer.
Oh, hi Don.
You might know this.
Chill out, fool. Chill out, fool. What you doing, fool? This is not part of the script. Watch out, man.
Two of his colleagues and the Chronicle's publisher have gathered for their daily editorial conference. Every morning they come together to plan the next day's edition. They discuss what's happening in San Francisco and the rest of the world, and they decide which topics their columnist Temp and Al should cover in their editorials.
Right.
Meanwhile, Robert is drawing. He'll do 6 sketches now. Later on, he'll ink one of them, and that'll be tomorrow's editorial cartoon. Suddenly, their routine is interrupted by another employee who delivers a mysterious envelope. The front reads, "Please rush to editor." Inside is a letter and a sheet of paper filled with cryptic symbols. The letter begins with the words,
Dear editor, this is the murderer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman and the girl on the 4th of July near the golf course in Vallejo.
The message contains detailed
Okay, so the killer he wants some clout. He wants some clout chasing shit. You know what I'm saying? Sending a letter to the news and shit, talking about something. I'm the one that did this. And he telling him the name and all type of shit, fool.
information about the murders committed in the Bay Area in the previous months. Things only the killer could know. And there's a threat.
If you do not print this cipher by afternoon of Friday, the 1st of August, I will go on a kill rampage Friday night.
The 4 men don't know what to do. Publishing the cipher in the letter might produce more than just a front-page headline. It could send the city into a panic, maybe even the entire region. The murders mentioned in the mysterious letter have already put the Bay Area on edge for months.
What are you talking about? Like, niggas, that's some shit that niggas need to know. What the hell? What you mean talking about you don't want everybody to panic? Everybody always panicking. Like, fuck you talking about? Like, what are you talking about?
First, David and Betty Lou were murdered. Then, just a few weeks ago, there was another attack.
I was tempted.
Darlene Farron is a waitress at Terry's restaurant. It's a classic diner, serving waffles, fried chicken, and pie. Every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Darlene works the late shift until 3 in the morning. She's friendly, talkative, and extremely popular with customers. People even line up to have her wait on them. Darlene just gave birth to her daughter, Dina, and she and her husband purchased a small house on Virginia Street. But she doesn't seem entirely happy. It's an open secret that she sees other men. While she's out, her husband or a babysitter stays home with Dina. Friends will later recall that she seems exhausted, nervous, and scared. She thinks she's being watched. In her own home, just steps away from the sheriff's office. And here, at the diner. She says she's seen a white car with old California plates outside the restaurant. In recent weeks, her sister and her friends have noticed a similar car. Darlene thinks she knows who it belongs to. This stocky, well-dressed man. He wears horn-rimmed glasses and smells of leather. Darlene says she knows him, but no one will ever find out from where. The man sits at the counter eating strawberry shortcake and pretending to read a newspaper. But he never really lets Darlene out of his sight.
Oh, what the fuck? I didn't even see that shit. All that music and shit, bro.
It's the
4th of July.
America is
I just
celebrating
said that,
almost
goofy.
200 years of independence. Darlene picks up her friend Mike Majot and confidently steers her 63 Corvair through the festive town, despite not having a driver's license. She met Mike and his twin brother at Terry's diner. Over time, the 3 became friends, and the twins became rivals for Darlene's affection. They would fight over driving her to work or doing her washing. At some point, Darlene and Mike notice they're being closely followed. The other car looks like it could be a Ford Falcon. Darlene keeps trying to shake it, but she can't. The car gets closer
What are
and
you
closer.
shaking?
Finally, it forces Darlene's car into a parking lot near a golf course in the outskirts of town.
Chill out.
Then it speeds off. For a brief moment, Darlene and Mike think they're safe. But just minutes later, the Falcon returns. The driver seems to have changed his mind. Mike and Darlene are hit by a blinding light. A man gets out of the car and walks toward them.
No.
He's holding a large flashlight in his hands. Mike thinks the man is police. Maybe Darlene knows him. After all, she's been seeing men who work at the sheriff's office.
Bro.
But before he can even pull out his ID,
Oh my god.
the roar of a gunshot fills his ears. He feels blood running down his face. Darlene collapses onto the steering wheel. 2 bullets hit her right arm. 2 more hit her left. Then 5 more hit her in the back, piercing her lung and the left ventricle of her heart. Frantic, Mike claws open the door and topples out of the car. Later on, the police will find him here, bleeding from the neck and cheek, his jaw shattered and a hole ripped through his tongue. A concerned
That's
neighbor
insane,
reports the
bro.
gunshots to the police, and officers rush.
I would say that nigga's probably a suspect just because. Bro, just because you said Shorty, like, why do we have to know that Shorty be sleeping with other men? Like, why we had to know that? Motive. What you talking
Russ and
about?
Lynch are sent to the scene shortly after. The 2 men take their time. Russ doesn't see any urgency.
It's the 4th of July and there's kids out there shooting firecrackers.
But he's wrong. Not acting on the call immediately is a mistake. If they had, the shooter probably would have driven right by them. Shortly after, a man places a call to the Vallejo Police Department. His voice is even and consistent. His words sound rehearsed.
I want to report a double murder. If you go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway to the public park, you'll find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
Then the man hangs up. Pacific Telephone
It's like you want to work with the police. Like you want to do the police work. But you killing motherfuckers. You killing people though. Like shit.
will later trace the call to a public payphone. The booth is located.
Don't come over here and play with them black people like that. Cause all the victims I see, y'all see what they look like. Don't come over here and try to play with the people right now. For real.
Right in front of the Vallejo Sheriff's Office. It's also within sight of Darlene's little green house. Darlene's friends and family also report having received strange calls that night. All they could hear was deep, heavy breathing. At the hospital, Darlene is declared dead on arrival. Mike pulls through, and it won't be long until the killer strikes again.
He gonna finish the job.
A man sits alone in a room, writing letters. He uses a blue felt-tip pen to compose 3 nearly identical texts. One of them reads,
First, girl was wearing patterned slacks. 2, the boy was also shot in the knee. 3, brand name of ammo was Western. To prove I killed them, I shall state some facts only I and the police know.
The paper measures 18 by 25 centimeters, or 7 by 10 inches. It's a unique format the man will return to again and again. It'll become unmistakably associated with his letters.
Christmas. First, brand name of ammo, Super X. 2, 10 shots were fired. 3, the boy was on his back with his feet to the car. 4, the girl was on her right side, feet to the west.
The handwriting drifts downward as it crosses the page, and it's quite distinct. The letter N is small and edgy. The R resembles a check mark. He ends his letters with a symbol resembling the crosshairs of a gun. In the years to come, it'll become his signature. He's given some thought to making his message even more impactful, and he's decided to pair
If
each
you
letter
really
with a
doing all
separate
that shit,
message,
get that shit
a
tatted.
cipher.
Get
Now
your
he just
shit
needs to find an
get your shit
encryption
tatted, nigga. For
You
real.
could simply shift
Real
the
gangster,
letters,
ain't you?
turn the A's into C's and the D's into F's. That system would be basic and easy to use. But he needs something more sophisticated. He decides to replace the letters with a range of different symbols. Greek characters, Morse code, and weather symbols. Letters from the Latin alphabet, naval symbols, and astrological signs. Then he adds another layer of complexity by encoding his message homophonically. Each letter can be represented by multiple symbols. That makes it essentially impossible to decode the text through frequency analysis. You can't just count how often certain symbols appear
So how
and
the
match that
fuck?
to
See,
typical
I
letter
ain't even finna
frequencies.
do all that shit.
A psycholinguistics expert will later claim that whoever composed the cipher must have at least been trained in elementary cryptography.
Right.
But today, we know this first cipher wasn't actually that sophisticated. The Codebreakers by David Kahn and Codes and Ciphers by John Laffin describe similar encryption methods. It's very likely the author of these letters simply used these two books as guides. While he would have had to track them down, neither was that hard to come by. The phantom writer carefully arranges symbol after symbol. Finally, each of his 3 ciphers consists of 8 rows with 17 symbols each. He pairs each one with a normal letter. Then he mails them to 3 newspapers in the Bay Area: the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald. Like Jack the Ripper before him, this man will use the media to taunt the police with cryptic clues to his identity. The editorial team at the Chronicle
Like I
eventually
told you, man,
decides to
get
print
that
their
shit
cipher.
tatted, man.
Their colleagues at the
For real.
Vallejo Times-Herald follow their lead. The Examiner waits until Sunday,
That's your
publishing
work.
its cipher 2 days later. The killing spree threatened in the letter doesn't happen. But publishing it has another effect. Now the public knows about the mysterious killer. The entire
Yeah.
Bay Area grows increasingly frightened. Before long, parents are telling their children not to leave the house. Jack E. Stiltz has been running the Vallejo Police Department for 21 years. When he took over as chief back in 1948, the city was struggling with gambling, drugs, and prostitution. His reforms and cleanup efforts have produced some good results. But now his town, of all places, is haunted by a ruthless serial killer. A man who Stiltz thinks is killing just for the thrill of it, who he describes as the most dangerous individual he's ever encountered in his 30 years in law enforcement. A few days ago, Stiltz publicly called on David, Betty Lou, and Darlene's killer to send another letter.
He did.
One with more details, proving it was really him who did it. The response comes quickly in the form of a 3-page letter.
Dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking. In answer to your asking for more details about the good times I have had in Vallejo, I shall be very happy to supply even more material. By the way, are the police having a good time with the code? If not, tell them to cheer up. When they do crack it, they will have me.
This is the letter where the killer names himself Zodiac. The word refers to the zodiac circle of astrological signs.
On the 4th of July, I did not open the car door. The window was rolled down already. The boy was originally sitting in the front seat when I began firing. When I fired the first shot at his head, he leapt backwards at the same time, thus spoiling my aim. He ended up on the back seat, then the floor in the back, thrashing out very violently with his legs. That's how I shot him in the knee. I did not leave the scene of the killing with squealing tires and racing engine as described in the Vallejo papers. I drove away slowly, so as not to draw attention to my car.
Stiltz admits the letter includes details that haven't been made public, but he's still not convinced. He thinks that knowledge could have been obtained from witnesses at the crime scenes. But soon, there will be even more victims. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard have been close friends since college. Today they're driving out to Lake Berryessa. It's a beautiful spot surrounded by rolling hills. On a small peninsula, they lay down a picnic blanket and revel in the stillness. Near the water, the land drops off abruptly, hiding the shoreline. From Brian and Cecilia's perspective, it's impossible to see anyone approaching from that direction until they're already very close. And right now, someone is. A tall, powerfully built man emerges. He's wearing a black executioner's hood that looks almost medieval. On his tunic, a white cross cuts across a circle. It's the symbol the Zodiac Killer uses to sign his letters. The man is carrying a knife with a 30-centimeter blade. With it, he stabs Brian and then Cecilia. Again and again, a total of 24 times. About an hour later, the phone rings at Napa Police Department. A calm and controlled voice says,
I want to report a murder. No, a double murder.
The caller doesn't seem to know that Brian, though severely injured, survived the assault. The police believe the attacker must have left the scene right away, but not before leaving a message on the door of Brian's car. The dates Betty Lou, David, and Darlene were murdered, and today's date. Crime lab technicians will later discover some less obvious clues. Tracks suggesting the attacker's vehicle has heavily worn tires, and very deep footprints. The suspect must weigh at least 95 kilos or 200 pounds.
Big
A
ass.
police officer with that exact weight walking alongside the tracks doesn't sink down as deeply as the unknown individual. The footprints reveal another lead too. They're most likely from a chukka-type boot called the Wing Walker. As part of a government contract, over 1 million pairs of this model were produced. The investigators will never be able to trace them all.
In most murder cases, you'll find a motive. But of course this guy is just a killer, a mad killer, and you have no motive.
This is Captain Don Townsend of the Napa County Sheriff's Office. He'll
Like,
speak
he's
to the
just
press again
doing
later
this
to
shit
announce
for
what he
no
believes
reason.
is a possible motive. He thinks the murderer can't be anyone but
Like,
a
he's just
mentally ill
bored.
person who derives sexual gratification from the act of killing.
This guy is a pathological, psycho, killer. There's no doubt about it.
A psychology professor supports that assessment. The Zodiac killer probably experiences sexual satisfaction through the deliberate mutilation of certain body parts.
Why didn't I hear about this in school? They be, what's that word called? They be, shit. Let me find it. Keep gating and shit. Like, with all the history that we really need, like, they be gatekeeping and shit. Like, what the fuck? All type of shit.
Captain Townsend is convinced that Zodiac hates women. Profoundly. In all known cases, the female victims are assaulted far more brutally than the men. He stabs Cecilia once in each breast, once between the legs, and once in the abdomen. And across his 3 attacks on couples, twice the man has survived. The woman has always died. The assault on Cecilia also marks a shift. It's the first time the Zodiac killer uses a knife. One investigator will later explain that
If you wanted to go out and kill for the sheer sake of killing, you could use a high-powered rifle and kill it 200, 300 yards. But by plunging a knife into someone, it's the most intimate contact you can have with a victim.
an intimacy that experts think people like the Zodiac killer are incapable of forming in their normal lives. His propensity to violence and misogyny are all over his ciphers, too. Just weeks ago, the first one was cracked, and not by a specialist. Donald and Betty Harden are both school teachers. On any other weekend, they'd be unwinding and taking it easy. But this Sunday, there's something they can't let go of. The cipher published in the Examiner 2 days earlier. They clear the dining room table and gather some sharp pencils, a ruler, and an eraser. Then they're back at it. Betty has a theory. The killer is such an egomaniac that he probably begins his messages with I. The Hardens also suspect he'll use the word kill repeatedly, so they look for recurrent 4-symbol patterns that could represent it. Their theory holds up.
I like killing people because it's so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all.
Betty and Donald also spot the traps Zodiac
You're lying. That's just like, okay, 1v1 with a man, cool. They fight hands. But a man to a lion or something? Gorilla, an ape? What are we talking about? Feel me? If we talking about no weapons, you feel me? Because you can obviously get that 4-5 or that 10, just get them out the way. Right.
built into the cipher. 15 times he uses a backwards Q. This is probably meant to trick readers into thinking it represents the most commonly used letter in English, E. But 7 different signs are used to encode that letter. At the same time, Zodiac appears to have made multiple mistakes. The application of his own code is sloppy and several words are misspelled. At this point, neither of America's most renowned investigative institutions, the FBI and the CIA, have managed to solve the cipher. As they decode the final piece, the Hardens are the first.
To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is when I die, I will be
Hey, nigga, chill. You need to relax right here, right now, fool. I heard about that. Let's relax now.
Something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the lone or stray people I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name, because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife.
How you know that?
After
Are you-
Cecilia's
what?
murder, Captain Townsend explicitly warns Napa County residents to avoid isolated areas and not go out alone after dark. People get the message. Local restaurants and drive-ins that are usually packed until late at night are now deserted. Across the Bay Area, the authorities are on full alert. Since the murders occurred in 3 different jurisdictions, 3 separate police departments are working on the case. Based on witness descriptions, all of them are searching for the same suspect. A stocky man, mid-20s to mid-30s, with glasses and dark wavy hair.
That's him.
But from the very beginning, the investigation moves slowly. Each department works its own leads, often without knowing what the others are doing. Decoding the letters frequently requires coordinating with experts from other cities.
Get the FBI.
That process is often complicated and time-consuming, slowing down the investigation. One officer admits to the press afterward that
our knowledge of each other's crimes was not as sharp as it might be.
to make things worse, the police make a grave mistake, one with serious consequences. Paul Stein's taxi is stuck in late-night San Francisco traffic. As he inches forward, Paul curses. The traffic is frustrating, but he's just months away from a PhD in English, and the taxi pays his tuition. On the sidewalk, a stocky man steps out from under an awning and waves him down. Paul picks him up. About 15 minutes later, they reach the man's destination, an upscale neighborhood in northern San Francisco. But the passenger asks Paul to go 1 block further. At the next intersection, the cab pulls over. A party's going on across the street. At the second-story window, teenagers look out over the wet pavement below. Normally, Paul would stop the meter and ask for the fare. But suddenly, the passenger's left arm is clenched tightly around Paul's neck. A gun presses up against his right cheek. Then the man pulls the trigger. At exactly 9:58 p.m., a police officer logs a call. The teenagers across the street couldn't see exactly what was going on inside the cab, but they know they witnessed something terrible. They say the suspect is a man wearing dark clothing. But when the APB goes out, patrol units are told to look for a black man. On their way to the scene, the officers see a stocky man lumbering along in the fog. He seems to match the description perfectly, but he isn't black. The officers shout to him, asking if he's seen another man. The man points them in a direction and the patrol car drives off. The 2 policemen don't realize they probably just spoke to the killer himself. But later on, they publicly
Talking about, but they think it's a black man. What the hell, bro?
admit to their mistake. Back at the crime scene, detectives assume a robbery has gone terribly wrong. San Francisco has recently seen a series of attacks on taxi drivers. This one must have been the work of an amateur. Paul's wallet is gone, but he just started his shift, so there probably wasn't
This was the same.
much cash in it. He's still wearing his expensive watch, and the killer left the scene dripping in blood. Shortly after, 2 experts from the crime lab arrive at the scene. They immediately look for latent fingerprints that may have been transferred to surfaces by sweat or the skin's natural oils. To render them visible, the experts need to dust the taxi's surfaces with gray or black powder. Once a print becomes visible, they carefully lift it with transparent tape to preserve it for analysis. Their meticulousness pays off. On the door, they find bloody prints from a right hand. Now they just need to compare these prints against those of the day's passengers and against police records. But the process is painstakingly slow. This is the 1960s, so there are no digital databases. Fingerprints are stored on paper cards. Every comparison requires hours of concentrated manual labor. Specialists known as dactyloscopists first look at general patterns like arches, loops, and whorls. But what really matters are the tiny details that make every print unique. Ridge endings, bifurcations, tiny dots, crossovers, and spurs. In the end, there's no match. The police are baffled. There are now 5 victims, and still no trace of the killer. The Chronicle receives another letter.
This is Zodiac speaking. I am the murderer of the taxi driver over by Washington Street and Maple Street. To prove this, here is a blood-stained piece of his shirt.
Before this, investigators hadn't considered the Zodiac killer a suspect in Paul's...
Nigga brought the evidence for their ass. Like, you think this a game? Like, this not Scooby-Doo. Like, it's real life, nigga.
Stein's murder. The crime just didn't fit his known pattern. Paul was alone. The attack happened in the middle of a residential area, not a remote lover's lane on the outskirts of town. And the killer only fired a single shot. But the bloody piece of Paul's shirt seems to prove it. In case the Chronicle considers not printing it in its entirety, the letter also contains a terrible threat.
School children make a nice target. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning. Just shoot at the front tire and then pick up the kiddies as they come bouncing out.
What this
When the
nigga
paper publishes the
on?
letter, the Bay Area is hit by another wave of panic, the biggest one yet. People were already living in fearful, uncertain times. The 1960s are tumultuous, marked by political assassinations, the Manson murders, and the Vietnam War. And for the first time, the public can watch most of it unfold on color TV. Thousands frequently take to the streets in the Bay Area's major cities. There are anti-war demonstrations, sit-ins, and protest marches. Many wear the now famous peace sign buttons. In one of his later letters, the Zodiac Killer will sarcastically demand protesters start wearing his symbol instead. At a moment when many people desperately hope for peace, the Zodiac Killer attacks society from within by threatening the most vulnerable target of all: children. In Napa County alone, 65 school buses take thousands of children to school every day. The vehicles cover a daily total of 7,000 kilometers. Some stretches of road are quite dangerous, with isolated sections, sharp turns, and blind intersections. Following Zodiac's threat, bus drivers are
Don't
instructed
tell
on
me you
handling
that
potentially
bold. You
violent
not that
attacks.
bold, bro.
Keep driving the bus, even on a flat tire. Tell the children to lie on the floor. Don't stop until you've reached a well-populated area. Protection is ramped up too. 70 units of heavily armed policemen guard the Napa County buses. Rangers in pickup trucks escort them, while air patrol planes fly overhead.
Oh, they
Police
on
protection is
point.
increased in almost every community in Northern California. Plainclothes officers are deployed. Every threat, no matter how small, is taken seriously.
They on point
A
then.
few days later, a man calls the Oakland Police Department. He claims to be the Zodiac Killer, and he demands to speak with one of the two most famous defense attorneys in the country.
This is the Zodiac speaking. I want you to get in touch with F. Lee Bailey. If you can't come up with Bailey, I'll settle for Mel Belly. I want one or the other to appear on the Channel 7 talk show. I'll make contact by telephone.
Melvin Belly agrees right away. Just hours later, he's in the studio.
A fucking killer trying to start his podcast. This funny as hell. Before niggas do what they did for their rap career, niggas starting his shit for a fucking podcast. And he wanna talk to one of the motherfuckers, detectives from the goddamn county from where his goddamn victims. That's OZ.
Half of America is glued to their TVs. In a normal edition of the show, viewers can call in to participate. But tonight the lines are kept clear so the Zodiac Killer can get in touch. And he does. He even gives Belly his real name, Sam.
Tell us what's going on inside you right now, Sam.
I have headache.
How long have you had those headaches, Sam?
In a long time.
Sam hangs up and calls back. Eventually, he loses control and simply screams.
This was back in the day for real, fool. This shit, some good goddamn acting right here.
Over and over, and he repeats his terrible threat.
I want to kill those kids.
Sam calls the show 35 times. Only 12 of the calls are heard on air. The longest of them is 9 minutes. That's long enough to trace the call. And long enough to find out that Sam is not the Zodiac Killer. He's a hospital patient, suffering from a mental disorder. Shortly after, the Chronicle receives 2 new letters from the real Zodiac. Inside the first envelope is a greeting card. On the front it says,
Sorry I haven't written, but I just washed my pen.
The message inside reads,
I thought you would need a good laugh before you hear the bad news. You won't get the news for a while yet. P.S. Could you print this new cipher at your front page? I get awfully lonely when I am ignored. So lonely, I could do my thing.
The enclosed cipher is his most complex yet. It's composed of 340 characters, and it won't be solved for 5 decades. December 3, 2020. 3 men sit at their computers on different sides of the planet. American software developer David Aranachak, Belgian computer programmer Yall Wanna, and Australian mathematician Sam Blake. For years, they've been collaboratively obsessing over the same mystery, the 340-character cipher the Zodiac Killer sent to the San Francisco Chronicle following the TV show. With his first riddle solved within a week, Zodiac must have made a bigger effort. His second cipher was almost certainly created with pen and paper too, but it proved complex enough to remain unbroken for 51 years. This isn't for lack of trying. Numerous experts have reportedly taken a crack at what has become known as Z340. The FBI, the American Cryptogram Association, Navy cryptographers, countless amateur codebreakers, and the NSA. David, Yall, and Sam alone have already spent years trying to break it. They know it's homophonic. Z340 consists of 63 different symbols, so every plain text letter is represented by several. But they have another theory. The Zodiac Killer must have done something else to his message before encrypting it. They start experimenting. Sam sends David a total of 650,000 variations of the cipher. David runs them all through a code-breaking program developed by Yall called AZ Decrypt. For months, thousands of these results look like gibberish. But today, December 3rd, David suddenly stumbles on some real words in one of the solutions. Hope you are, trying to catch me, and the gas chamber. He almost overlooks them, but these words will be the key to finally solving Z340. The Zodiac Killer's first cipher was delivered in 3 separate letters, so Yall proposes splitting the 340 cipher into 3. The first 2 sections comprise 2 paragraphs. Each has 9 lines. The third is just 2 lines. They rearrange the cipher using a diagonal reading rule. They start by writing out the symbol in the upper left-hand corner. Then they move 1 symbol down and 2 to the right and write out the symbol there. This continues until they reach the edge of the cipher. Then they repeat the scheme starting with the top row's second letter. Then comes the final tweak. As it searches for the rest of the key, David tells Yall's decrypting software to retain the words he found before. Hope you were trying to catch me, and gas chamber. He clicks a button, and boom, a phrase pops out. That wasn't me on the TV show. David leaps out of his chair yelling, holy shit! He knows the Zodiac sent this cipher about 2 weeks after Sam called into the TV show. They're on the right track. Apart from being a homophonic substitution cipher, Z340 is also a transposition cipher. The plaintext characters have been shifted according to a more or less regular system. The international team has to make some final adjustments. Some words are misspelled, spelled backwards, or exempted from the diagonal reading rule. But eventually they come up with a coherent message. 2 days later, the FBI confirms it. In his message, Zodiac clarifies that he isn't afraid of death. He believes dying will bring him to paradise, where all of his victims will serve him as slaves.
I hope you are having lots of fun trying to catch me. It wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber, because it will send me to paradise all the sooner. I now have enough slaves to work for me, where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise. That is why they are afraid of death. I am not afraid, because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradise.
Cracking the 51-year-old cipher is a small sensation among people still fascinated by the case, but it doesn't bring investigators any closer to actually solving it. Back in 1969, detectives turned to the other letter Zodiac sent after the TV show. This one is a 7-page diatribe aimed at the police. The killer mockingly refers to the officers as blue pigs and accuses them of making blatant mistakes in the manhunt. The letter also includes a drawing. It's a sketch of a bomb Zodiac wants to plant on a school bus. The threat isn't made public, but it stokes fear of a potential school bus attack. Investigators are growing desperate. About 2 months after the murder of taxi driver Paul Stein, a self-proclaimed seer named Joseph DeLuise comes forward. A few years ago, he accurately predicted that the Kennedy family would be hit by a horrible tragedy. Now he claims to have been receiving mental transmissions from the Zodiac Killer. He says he's begun to form a mental picture of Zodiac and to receive detailed insight into the killer's personal life. DeLuise feels that Zodiac prefers walking over driving, that he spent time in some kind of reform institution when he was young. He consumes drugs like speed or goofballs before going out to kill. His star sign is either Scorpio or Aquarius, and he has a little box where he keeps the things that drive him to commit his horrible crimes. DeLuise offers to help the police. Accompanied by officers from 2 police departments, he visits the crime scenes to pick up more vibrations. The psychic develops intuitions about the killer's deep loneliness, love for flowers, and intense hatred of the police. Aside from that, his visits produce nothing of value. After Paul Stein's death, more and more people begin to actively engage with the case. The Napa County Sheriff's Office receives hundreds of leads. The San Francisco PD gets almost 1,000. Concerned citizens start suspecting their neighbors, ex-husbands, and co-workers. Between 1969 and 1983, over 2,500 suspects are considered in San Francisco alone. But most of it leads nowhere. Throughout the 1970s, police investigators keep coming back to one man in particular, Arthur Lee Allen. He's the only suspect ever publicly named by the police. In 1971, a former friend of Alan's contacts the authorities. He tells them Alan repeatedly expressed disturbing fantasies about killing couples and school children, and sending cryptic letters about his murders to the police. The friend claims he even considered calling himself Zodiac. So police begin investigating Arthur Lee Allen. He matches the killer's general description. He's said to have known Darlene casually and to have lived in Vallejo at the time of his murders. He also owned a typewriter of the same model allegedly used to type some of the Zodiac letters. Multiple search warrants are issued for him over the years, but neither Allen's fingerprints nor his handwriting match the existing evidence. Years later, advances in DNA analysis effectively rule him out as the Zodiac killer, posthumously. Allen dies in 1992 at the age of 58. He was never formally charged with anything. Over time, investigators and amateur sleuths identify numerous potential suspects. But like Allen, none can be conclusively linked to the crimes. The Zodiac remains a ghost. So much so that a 2020 book proposes another wild but highly intriguing theory. What if the Zodiac killer never existed? What if it was all just a hoax? One or possibly even several cipherists claiming multiple unrelated crimes as their own.
That'd be crazy.
In The Myth of the Zodiac Killer, American English professor Thomas Horan questions the premise of a single perpetrator. He argues that the murders attributed to the Zodiac killer differ too much in method and circumstances to be the work of one person. He also points to inconsistencies in witness descriptions, composite sketches, and even the letters themselves. Horan even suggests that the individual writing as Zodiac could have claimed responsibility for attacks they never actually committed. What if Zodiac was just a literary invention? What if he led the police and everyone else to attribute a series of unrelated crimes to one fictional character? What if everyone just badly wanted to believe in a bone-chilling serial killer narrative? Several professionals and linguistic experts have questioned Horan's theory. In the end, we'll probably never know. Decades pass, with investigators more or less in the dark. Each year, more and more retire. The case of the Zodiac killer eventually ends up buried under stacks of other cold and unsolved cases. But somehow it refuses to go away entirely. The evidence collected in Vallejo is re-examined time and again. Investigators and amateur sleuths remain convinced that someday they'll be able to reveal Zodiac's identity. Some even believe they already know it. In 2021, a group of around 40 amateur detectives claims to have identified the real Zodiac killer. The self-proclaimed case breakers say Zodiac is a former member of the U.S. Air Force. But the police department quickly dismisses leads like this as no more than theories without hard evidence. But alleged breakthroughs keep resurfacing.
But why not?
As it happened, the story dominated newspapers' front pages.
That shit gonna
Radio
go bad
broadcasts
as
and
y'all,
television reports beamed the name Zodiac and his horrible crimes into living rooms across the nation. Today, it's series, podcasts, movies, online forums, and videos like this one. Apparently, the Zodiac killer still captivates the public and the media, even today. Even when no one has heard from him in almost half a century. Officially. Just recently, a TikTok video went viral because the young man in it claimed the Zodiac killer was his grandfather.
San Francisco was terrorized in the late 60s and early 70s by a man who called himself the Zodiac Killer. He claimed 37 murders.
So he did already?
Police confirmed at least 6. 4 years ago, the killing stopped, and so did Zodiac's letter. Now there's another letter.
Experts are divided on whether this letter was truly composed by the Zodiac killer, or if it's just a really good imitation.
Zodiac Killer.
The news of his supposed return spreads like wildfire. It'll be the last Zodiac-related message to make major headlines. The San Francisco Chronicle's front page headline reads, "Zodiac ends silence." In the letter itself, Zodiac, or a copycat, brags about always having been one step ahead of the police. He might not be entirely wrong. But in many ways, the Zodiac won't go down in history as particularly smart. Today, many experts think he was just a pathetic, deeply lonely man, a misogynist incapable of forming real consensual intimacy, a failure who vastly overestimated himself. He claimed to be responsible for more than 35 murders. Authorities attribute at least 5 homicides to him. He probably wouldn't have approved of these kinds of assessments, though he probably would have liked one thing, the fact that Hollywood made a movie about him. Just what he seemed to wish for in his final letter.
Yeah, he needed all that just to make a name and just leave. And ain't nobody know where he at. Like, they said he was dead.